What if I told you that in 2025 migration into Europe is no longer just a political headline, but one of the continent's most consequential economic forces? Some call it a lifesaver for aging pension systems and shrinking workforces. Others see it as a burden that squeezes wages, public services, and housing. The truth is in the middle. Migration's impact depends on the country, the profile of arrivals, and, above all, the quality of public policy. If you want clear, practical analysis that cuts through the noise, subscribe to Global Finance 360, turn on notifications, and join us as we separate myths from facts about migration and the economy in 2025. Let's put numbers and trends on the table without sensationalism. Recent years have brought more arrivals driven by conflict, economic distress, and climate pressures. At the same time, many European countries face rapidly aging populations and low birth rates. That shifts the demographic balance. More people of working age are entering countries that otherwise face labor shortages. This can add the workforce needed to sustain production and public finances, but only if newcomers are integrated into the labor market and public systems effectively. Consider the labor market. In construction, agriculture, and hospitality, migrants often fill roles local workers avoid, easing production bottlenecks and increasing output. Skilled arrivals, nurses, engineers, IT specialists, can raise productivity, spur innovation, and relieve acute shortages. Tensions appear when large inflows concentrate in a narrow set of low-skilled jobs without matching demand, which can push down entry wages. That outcome is policy-dependent. Fast recognition of qualifications, targeted training, and language support help migrants move into higher-value roles faster, benefiting both newcomers and native workers. Now, public finances. Short-term, new arrivals typically require spending on reception, housing, schooling, and healthcare, creating visible fiscal pressure, especially when flows arrive quickly. But the medium-term picture can differ. If migrants find work and pay taxes, their contributions may outweigh initial costs, widening the tax base and helping to sustain pensions. The fiscal outcome hinges on policy design. Integration measures that enable rapid labor market entry and formal employment tend to produce a positive net fiscal effect after a few years. Policies that leave people in informal work or long unemployment prolong costs and fuel resentment. Housing and urban infrastructure are another critical dimension. When arrivals exceed local capacity, rents can rise, schools and health centers become crowded, and transport shows strain. These effects are strongest in major cities that concentrate jobs and services. Yet the impact is uneven. Cities with flexible housing supply and proactive planning absorb growth more smoothly. Markets with limited land, rigid rules, and speculative investment face sharp price rises. Smart urban policy, affordable housing, faster permitting, better public transport, and upgraded schools and clinics can turn migration-driven demand into urban renewal rather than displacement. Migration also reshapes consumption and local demand. New communities bring different habits, cuisines, and services, creating business opportunities. Immigrant entrepreneurs open shops, restaurants, and service firms, creating local jobs and revitalizing declining areas. More people means more aggregate demand. Managed well, that demand stimulates entrepreneurship and helps local economies diversify. There is a clear link between migration and innovation. A diverse labor pool correlates with higher rates of startups and new business formation. Migrant founders often build companies that serve both home and host markets, creating transnational networks that facilitate trade, investment, and knowledge transfer. Cities that make it easy to register businesses, access microcredit, and connect entrepreneurs with incubators see more successful immigrant-led startups, which in turn generate skilled jobs and tax revenue. Policy makes the difference between migration as an asset and migration as a cost. Effective measures include rapid language and vocational training, streamlined recognition of foreign credentials, temporary but rights-protecting housing, employer incentives to hire and train migrants, and clear legal paths to regularization. Policies that criminalize arrival, delay paperwork for years, or exclude migrants from education and healthcare create dependency, enlarge the informal economy, and fuel political backlash. Europe's recent experience shows both success stories and cautionary tales. Places that invested in integration saw positive returns. Those that relied on ad hoc or punitive measures faced social tensions and higher long-term costs. Remember the short-term fiscal spike that follows sudden arrivals. Reception costs, shelters, emergency healthcare, temporary schooling can be substantial and politically sensitive. But international experience suggests that with proper planning and targeted bridging finance, these initial costs can be offset within 5 to 10 years as migrants enter employment and begin contributing taxes. The political challenge is communicating this lag clearly and securing financing to bridge the gap between short-term costs and medium-term gains. Beyond economics, integration is social. Neighborhood cohesion, civic participation, and cultural adaptation shape productivity. Societies that promote two-way integration, where migrants learn language and norms and host communities open opportunities, reduce friction, and unlock synergies. When migration is politicized as a threat, investment and consumption suffer, and the social cost can depress growth. A few examples make this concrete. Germany, confronting an aging workforce, sped up validation of qualifications and fast-tracked migrants into healthcare and manufacturing, with positive results. Spain, with seasonal demand in agriculture and tourism, has benefited from temporary labor schemes but still struggles with formalization and worker protection. The United Kingdom has seen how limited housing supply amplifies rent pressure in big cities. Each case shows that sequencing and policy design matter as much as overall openness. Migration is neither a miracle cure nor an inevitable problem. It is a set of economic inputs whose value depends on governance. Where states and cities take proactive, coherent approaches, coordinating labor policy, urban planning, and financing, migration can be a sustained advantage. Where planning fails, the same flows can intensify pre-existing problems and provoke social strain. Policy models that actually work. Let's review 3 blueprints that have yielded results: integration as investment, activation-first models, and selective mobility corridors. 1. Treat reception as early-stage spending with medium-term returns. Fast-track credential recognition, vocational training tied to employers, intensive language and civic courses, guaranteed transition-to-work programs. Funded by short-term bridge funds. The goal is a positive net fiscal contribution within 3 to 7 years as taxes and social contributions rise. Quick skills validation plus sectoral training. In health, construction, or digital services, speeds employment and increases tax revenue. 2. Tighten migration channels to labor needs. Sector-specific permits and apprenticeship visas that link newcomers to training and an initial employer. This lowers time to productivity and reduces informal work. Key features: employer training obligations, wage floors to prevent undercutting, and portability so workers can move if conditions are poor. The model narrows fiscal uncertainty and fills concrete shortages. 3. Bilateral agreements with origin countries to recruit, train, and rotate workers legally and ethically. Corridors include pre-departure training, guaranteed contracts, and return paths for skills transfer. They reduce irregular flows, smooth host country costs, and boost remittances development impact. What employers should do: practical steps. A concise employer playbook. 1. Hire for skills, not just papers. Use practical tests and trial placements. 2. Invest in short, intensive onboarding, technical language, cultural orientation, and mentors. 3. Offer formal contracts with decent rights and benefits to improve retention. 4. Partner with training centers and NGOs to build vetted pipelines. 5. Track outcomes, time to productivity, turnover, absenteeism, and promotion rates. Risk management, what can go wrong and how to hedge it. Main hazards and mitigations. 1. Political backlash. Set clear timelines, show short-term wins, and engage communities. 2. Labor crowding. Enforce wage floors and create regional mobility programs. 3. Spatial concentration. Avoid overloading neighborhoods by dispersing arrivals and investing in transport. 4. Fiscal miscalibration. Use conditional financing. Repay only if targets met, and rigorous monitoring. Measuring success, the metrics that matter. Track these KPIs regularly. Short-term, 0 to 2 years. Share of new arrivals in formal employment at 6 and 12 months. Time from arrival to first formal contract. Use of emergency services per capita to detect overloads. Medium term, 3 to 7 years. Net fiscal balance per cohort. Taxes paid minus public costs. Median wage progression of migrants versus native peers. Business creation rates among migrants. Structural, 7+ years. Change in working age ratio, workers versus retirees. Productivity growth attributable to immigrant labor in target sectors. Long-term social cohesion indicators, surveyed trust, crime trends. Timeline and realistic expectations. Expect visible employment and fiscal benefits in 3 to 5 years. Initial costs are real. Political patience and clear communication that links early spending to midterm gains are essential. Success depends on technical capacity, cross-sector cooperation, and honest public messaging. Final thoughts: migration as an economic strategy, not a short-term fix. In 2025, Europe faces demographic pressures no single fiscal tweak can solve. Migration, embedded in smart policy, is a strategic tool to replenish labor, support public finances, and spur innovation. It is not a silver bullet. It requires investment, governance, and social leadership. The payoff is real only if arrivals become contributors rather than sidelined. If you like this guide, subscribe to Global Finance 360, hit the bell, and tell us in the comments which policy you'd like modeled in detail next. See you in the next video.